All right, you guys, let's get into it. Good morning. Welcome back. Yesterday's show was off the rails, and it was like a troll army came in. Thanks, Rebecca, for handling that. Apologies, you had to go through that. Look, anything that is off topic, it comes from outside influences onto the channel that's repeated over and over again, no matter what, it could be anything, will be considered spam. And we got spammed yesterday. Now, it's nothing personal against outside people. It's just, this is our living room, right? This is our house. And if someone were to walk into your house, guests that you invite in, and they start trying to derail your house or insulting your wife or whatever the case may be, there's copious amounts of examples. They're going to be asked politely to stop, and then they're going to be shown the door. And that's how we handled this chat. So in order for Rebecca to be able to keep up, I have the chat on slow mode. It's not to say that it will always be on slow mode. I do know that if you're a channel member, you can bypass slow mode, but I don't really encourage people to do the channel memberships because YouTube takes 30% of that. It's better for people to, if they're going to donate to the channel, to go through the other avenues, the links, there's Cashapp, there's all the other things you can use. The PayPal, which is like monthly support, is the way to do it, because YouTube does not take 30% of that, right? Now, I think I actually have the channel memberships disabled. I might have disabled those just so people don't sign up for that. But anyway, long story short, let's get back on track here. Today is going to be more of the madness. Gosh, you guys, I am literally like, I can't even talk today, is how crazy the last 24 hours has been. What I found, what tomorrow's show is going to be about, what today's show is going to be about. Remember last week when I told you that Trump's Golden Dome would likely trigger a Russian-Chinese arms race? Remember that conversation? I said, any day now, Russia and China are going to say, oh, the Golden Dome is a threat, and we need to build our own Golden Dome. Remember that conversation? And I told you that the world would probably look like the movie Logan's Run, with domed countries across the earth. Well, it's happening now. Within the last 24 hours, Russia and China are now saying exactly what I told you they were going to say, that they're very concerned about Trump's Golden Dome, which means that they will likely try to build their own Golden Dome in short order. We're going to get into that. And then after the show, I'm going to show you a decode that we did of God's tabernacle, God's temple. And we decoded God's temple to the degree that we could. Again, something you need to pray about. But we looked at the elements of gold and copper, and we tried to figure out what that might be about. So that will be the second part of the show. And then tomorrow is going to go off the rails. Literally, you're not going to believe what I found browsing through movies from 2012 when Trump was 66 years old. A movie called Nazis at the Center of the Earth. The movie actually opens with Trump's mother's 33rd birthday, May 10th, 1945. There's an actor in the movie who plays the Trump archetype, whose birthday in real life is one day after Trump's. And that actor, Jake Busey, says in the movie, you're going to see this tomorrow, he says that he created the flu just so he can make a vaccine. Like I told you, I could barely speak today because, you know, this is like herding cats, like trying to figure out how to put all this together for you guys without overwhelming you, trying to keep the message concise and clear so that these videos are shareable, so that people can make the connections to this without thinking we're crazy, right? Because it all sounds crazy, but it's not. It's absolutely real. Let's start with this story. Now, this happens weekly on the channel. If you think we're just grasping at straws, no. We start talking about something and then it appears in the mainstream news. One thing specifically was some things, just examples of this quickly before we show you this video, are a lot of Trump's policies or ideas that we had come up with even before he became president. And then for some reason, he's rolling out some of these ideas, right? Well, let's talk about what Russia and China and North Korea are talking about in condemning Trump's Golden Dome missile shield. This is insane.
I'm going back now.
Wait,
to deal with Russia.
Hold on.
Wasn't the only thing on the president speaking at West Point wasn't the only thing on the president's agenda today.
I'm going back now to deal with Russia, to deal with China.
He just leans it.
Trump has not been shy about standing up to the dangers posed by Russia and China, and now he has a plan to defend us from any potential attacks by the new axis of evil.
I promised the American people that I would build a cutting-edge missile defense shield to protect our homeland from the threat of foreign missile attack. And that's what we're doing. We'll have it done in about 3 years. Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles even if they are launched from other sides of the world and even if they are launched from space.
His announcement has China and Russia in a full-fledged panic. Russia's deputy foreign minister says they are taking these, quote, grounds for concern very seriously.
Why now? Why a week after we said this would be the exact scenario is the question. Notice the urgency of the woman speaking here. The urgency of it all. Here we are. Here we go again, right back to Russia and China, the axis of evil. Why in the hell, excuse my French, are we still trading with China? Why is one single container ship coming to our shores for the past 30 years? When the human rights record of these countries is in the toilet. I hope this show wakes people up. Because the reason why we continue to receive all of these products is because secretly they want the entire world to look like China. Oh, Casey, but Trump's doing something about it with the tariffs. No, what Trump's doing with the tariffs is giving us extra taxes. None of that's ever going to trickle down. And he's enriching the people in government, not the middle and lower class, with these tariffs. It's more control, more power, and secretly all these people work together. Now understand that this whole don't be afraid. Don't think, oh no, we're in another arms race. This is like the 1980s. We're all going to die from nuclear fallout. No, that's not what's happening here. Okay. This isn't what this is about, but this is what most people will think it's about. We need to hurry up and build the Golden Dome quick. Because if we don't, Russia and China are going to take us out. This is what they want you to believe. But it's not the truth. It's a psyop. None of these countries are truly concerned about war with each other. What's happening here is fear, so that we allow them to lock us all in under a dome with 24-hour surveillance, with the Orb retinal ID, which we covered yesterday, which the trolls tried to derail because it was so important, where they give you a number, a code, after they've scanned your retina, a code that you will now have to provide to verify that you are human. I hope you're listening, because this is all real and it's all happened in the last 24 hours. A code that people aren't going to want to carry on their phone because they could lose their phone. But where are they going to put it? On their body. So they can just walk through, get scanned, and have full access to this dying world. That will be followed by a digital currency. Now, every country is going to be doing this. Let's keep listening to this lady.
And it sounds like China is just as worried.
China is seriously concerned about this. This highly offensive system violates the principle of peaceful use of outer space. It will exacerbate the risk of turning outer space into a battlefield.
Joey, I want to come back to you on this because there are critics that are...
Space Force. Is it all starting to make sense now? I hope it is. Thumbs up the video, you guys. The only way this channel is ever going to reach anybody is through you. Thumbs up, share it. Space Force. That was Trump's endeavor during his first term. He already knew he was going to build a Golden Dome, which is why he set up the Space Force first. Nobody really knew at the time what the Space Force was going to be, but now we know. It's going to be tied into the Golden Dome, which he has said clearly. Let's keep watching this.
They're drawing comparisons to President Reagan's Star Wars program that didn't get off the ground, for lack of a better term. But this is a different time.
If you understand the Cold War, the reason why Sputnik and getting to the moon was so important was the idea of nukes in space. That's what it was all about. Yeah. And that's what this is about. There are a lot of people in this country, I can't say I'm one of them because I don't know the physics behind it. There are a lot of people in this country and world that believe nukes are already in outer space. It's a high likelihood. So when we talk about the Golden Dome, you got to think completely differently than what they have in Israel. Really what makes a dome is the detection opportunities. It's not the munitions. We've developed the munitions. We've actually finally caught up with guided hypersonic missiles as of this year. But when it comes to the detection, how do you detect even these slow moving drones? And so what the president is saying is you're not going to be able to develop a weapon that can get by us. But what they're responding to publicly is this idea of saying, oh, the U.S. is the big bad bully and they're trying to put nukes in space. And maybe both are true. I don't know.
It comes with a big price tag, Kevin. But, you know, we have AI involved here, developing at a rate so much faster than any of us imagined. Yep. The question is this the time for the investment?
I think it's absolutely the time because we have a leader who's committed to our...
Wow. Now understand that the concern in my voice isn't for people like you and me, okay? We already know the future. We already know what the future holds, a new heaven, a new earth, Christ's kingdom ruling, and we're actually happy. We're rejoicing about the end coming and about these developments because it means that we're that much closer to the end. There's not much more we have to endure. The concern in my voice is for all the sleep people out there who are just so asleep that they are actually becoming part of the problem to build all of this and to give their spiritual energy to all of this. That is the concern in my voice. How many people will be lost? How many people are giving their spiritual allegiance to this future that Trump is creating? And it raises the stakes, doesn't it? It raises the stakes. Now, the only other channel that I've heard voice pretty much many of the same concerns that we have about these truths has to be Call for an Uprising. I know I've been talking about him a lot lately, but he's the only one that I've heard. And I don't follow a lot of channels or listen to much content, but every once in a while I'll drop in to some of his videos. And he's saying the exact same thing we are about what all this really means. It's a takeover on humanity. Has nothing to do with pretend wars and all this stuff. It's a takeover of humanity into the digital age, the AI digital age. He's the only one. And that saddens me that most of the other true channels don't get it. I mean, I hear hints of it in True Stream Media. I've heard them mention certain parts of it, but the spiritual aspect is missing. Because this is all spiritual, you guys. It's right out of the Bible. And so you have to ask yourself, how have most of the truth community been so thoroughly deceived? We lost a good portion of the truth community to the MAGA crowd and the Q crowd who believes in Trump. That like cut us in half. That was a very effective psyop, wasn't it? And now here we are, and they're all running cover for this new world order. And you'll see that tomorrow in tomorrow's show. They literally say New World Order in the movie called Nazis at the Center of the Earth. Wow. Crazy times. Now, let's replay this video that we did about God's temple to finish up the show here. And maybe at the end of the show, I'll play the trailer for tomorrow's show. I'll play you the montage that I have put together, but then we'll decode it in full on tomorrow. But I'll show it to you today for those that choose to stick around. All right. Hit that thumbs up, you guys. Let's get some more people into the live show this morning. Good morning, everybody. Enter the stars and welcome to the show. I was trying to get Mark on here with me, but I was in last time. I'm going to have to wait till I get for you this morning to copper. About 3 months ago, we started looking more deeply into copper. And I told you that since the date that he announced 5G Whiz and beyond on Friday, March 13th, that copper would be needed to build that infrastructure. You see, the way it works is with 5G Whiz, there are many, many more base stations that are required. Many, many more than with 4G Whiz, and it's all because of the shorter range of the millimeter wave technology. And we also told you that most coins have copper and that the banks would be coming for that copper very soon. Well, look at the copper prices since Trump's announcement in March. Literally, on the day that he made the announcement for the national emergency, and shortly after that, made an announcement about 5G Whiz and beyond, look at what copper's done since March. Let me make this a little bit bigger if I can. And you're going to see how this all dovetails into today's show shortly, because this seems to be the foundation for everything that we've been talking about. This is just nuts. And look at the market here, where leading up to the national emergency, copper dropped off dramatically. Now, I think the reason for this is because they got some kind of signal. You see, what these people do is they'll sell off something so that they can buy it back and make money off of it. So they sold it off here. They can wait till it drops off to this, buy it all back, and then look at all the profits that they made. Now, this right here is compelling evidence. This is the kind of evidence that you can go to a court with. Now, of course, we don't believe in the courts, but if you did, this is very compelling evidence. Okay, this doesn't happen by accident. And this drop off here means that there was some insider trading going on. Like, they knew he was going to make this announcement. And this is how the rich get richer. They just inform each other of their little things that they're going to do to keep developing the world order. And none of us get that information. And then they all just make money. They just print money out of thin air. So, will they be coming for the copper coins soon? I believe they will be. So, it's apparent to me that now you see, here we are back in 2025, that we don't just make stuff up. This was 4 years ago. We were having this discussion in the live show that you're watching, well, in this re-upload that you're watching right now. And sure enough, they have now come for the coins. Since then, Canada lost their coins. We had a coin shortage since then. The pennies are now gone. And the rest of the coins will be next. Let's keep watching here. That we are now in a new copper age. Now, how does this relate to today's show? Well, bronze is a copper tin alloy, and it appears in God's temple. And we're going to talk today about what that might mean. Now, I want to start the show by saying this, and being honest with you guys, that I was a little bit worried to look into this any deeper than I had, because I realized that God's temple had copper in it, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do God's word justice and giving you an explanation as to why that might be. Especially after everything we've discovered about copper and how it is very close to the word serpent. Nakosheth is serpent, Nakosh is serpent, Nakosheth is copper. They're almost the same Hebrew word. And I was lacking in faith. I wasn't sure if God was going to show us the answers. I just didn't want to make a mistake about something so holy as the resting place of God amongst his people. And the information that I'm going to show you today, I want you guys to pray about it as well and ask God to confirm in your heart if what you're looking at is accurate. But I think we found something pretty amazing in the materials that the Temple of Solomon was made out of. And we'll also be decoding the Tabernacle, which is like the mobile version or mobile copy of Solomon's Temple. It's not exactly the same, but it's got many of the same elements. So Mark and I, our journey with this started in Daniel, the book of Daniel, and 2:43 to be exact. And first thing we noticed was the juxtaposition between the gold head of the copper statue in Daniel and the bronze midsection. And we were sitting thinking about why that might be. Gold and copper, or if there was even any deeper meaning to it. And based on what we know about copper, we can maybe surmise some things from this, because it seems to be a metaphor for literally every item in the Holy of Holies that is covered in gold, this gold head here. And the waist seems to be the earthly knockoff version of power compared to the spiritual gold of God's kingdom. And then we begin to wonder, is the copper loin cloth a metaphor for the sinful beast system, the carnal based desires of lust, the flesh, down here in the reproductive region? And then wondering if the gold head was the metaphor for godly power, because this is where the head is, the higher thinking versus the base thinking. You see how this all seems to dovetail in together? So in order for us to answer that question, we had to go back and look at Solomon's temple. And this is it here, a diagram of how it was laid out. And you can see there's an outer and inner courtyard. Now here's the zinger. Everything outside the Holy of Holies, so these side areas, here and down here, everything outside of this Holy of Holies is made of bronze, which of course is 88% copper. And everything inside the Holy of Holies is gold. So you've almost got a metaphor for the statue of Daniel. The gold at the head, the bronze at the waist, this is the sinful lust, carnal nature. And so if you think about what the bronze artifacts in Solomon's court were used for, they were used for cleaning away sin. Is this all starting to come together for you yet? This is amazing, because here we have a direct connection between copper and sin. Everything outside the Holy of Holies, the lavers and bases, the brazen sea, which means bronze sea, brazen altar, bronze altar, is for that. Now, we dug deeper because we wanted to get specific about these components and what they could mean. So the bronze components are specifically for cleansing, bathing, or sacrifice for sin, which happened on the altar. The sin is washed away before the priest can enter in this brazen sea. It was like a giant bowl. So let's break down some of these components. First thing we looked at was the lavers. These are the bronze lavers. And according to the Bible, there were 40 baths per laver. And of course, again, these were bronze. And Mark and I were surmising that maybe that relates to the 40 years in the wilderness and the 40 days and nights that it rained in the flood, the washing away of the sin, right? And what the priest would do, and these lavers would wash their hands and feet in this priestly ritual before they entered the Holy of Holies. Now, when you go back to the diagram here, you notice that there are 5 and 5. That's 55. And we'll get into the meaning of that very soon. But we found a 55 when looking at the aerial view of Trump Tower next to the IBM Tower. Both are 5-pointed, like diamond shaped from the aerial view. So let's go on to the next part, and it's the molten sea. You can see it here. They call it the brazen sea. It's also called the molten sea. So we covered the lavers and bases. Now we're going to get into the brazen sea. This is it here. And this molten sea was actually twice as big as the lavers. And look at this. Look at the size of this. Now, this was something Mark and I noticed, that this is very large. We started to wonder, who were these priests? The Israelite armies were fighting the Nephilim, which were giants. But were there giant counterparts to the Nephilim that were of God's holy people? Now, the Bible doesn't say anything like that I know of, but this is crazy. How would they even climb up into this thing? Now, this was used for water immersion. So they actually got into it like a pool. And this is how it's described in the Bible. Now, here is the altar, the brazen altar. Let me show you a depiction of this in the picture here. So the altar is this giant square piece. Now, it looks like the same size as the Holy of Holies, but they're actually different sizes. I looked that up because we wanted to make sure we did this right. So the brazen altar was 32 cubits square, and the Holy of Holies is only 20 cubits. There is a difference of 12 cubits. The Holy of Holies is 12 cubits smaller. And Mark and I thought about that. We're like, what could that mean? Maybe it means the shedding of the flesh as you enter the spirit. Well, what would that have to do with shedding of the flesh? Well, you have 12 ribs on each side of your body. You shed the flesh and enter the spirit. Interesting, right? The spirit being the 12 intracranial nerves of the brain, right? So the 12 ribs are shed. That's the lower part of the body in bronze on Daniel's statue. And then you go to the head, which is the 12 intracranial nerves in gold in Daniel's statue. So it's almost like a mirror of Daniel's statue. Let's keep watching here. So this goes on to the showbread. I think I have that pulled up here. Oh, I wanted to show you some pictures of the altar. There's the altar here. And there's the brazen sea next to it. Remember, everything outside is bronze and everything inside is gold. Altar. Now, you'll see here the showbread. Let me pull that back up. Here, the tables of showbread. There are 5 and 5 of them as well. So you have 5 and 5 showbread. You have 5 and 5 lavers. So you have a holy counterfeit, or you have a holy version, and then you have the counterfeit version on the outside. What could this mean? Well, look at the pillars of Jachin and Boaz. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you. Before you enter through the pillars of Jachin and Boaz, and look at what we have here. We have a possible connection to the two 110-story buildings that were in Manhattan. 2 110-story buildings. Well, what does that have to do with this, Casey? Well, 55 and 55 is 110. So 55 and 55 is 110 for Jachin, and 55 and 55 is 110 for Boaz. Do you think their intention of building those towers and bringing them down had nothing to do with this? Of course it did. Because the enemy is fascinated with the Most High. Now, let me see if I pulled up. I wanted to show you guys the tabernacle and compare that to Solomon's temple. Here's the Holy of Holies. And this is the Holy of Holies in the tabernacle, a much smaller version. And then we have the Holy of Holies. That's tabernacle still, I believe, yes. There's a image of it here. There's the tabernacle. Make sure we're good here. Appears so. And you can see it's got some of the same components, but smaller version. Only one showbread, one altar, and much smaller. So here's the tabernacle. This is what it probably looked like. It's a model of the tabernacle. And here's some other images of it. This is the mobile version. Had 1 bronze laver versus 10. Okay. Remember, the lavers are all around the outside. And so you begin to be able to draw some conclusions about God's temple. And our first clue to that we were getting close to the truth about how God's temple is laid out really came when we started examining blue-blooded creatures. We started examining copper-based organisms from the seafloor. I'm going to pause myself. We're back in 2025. Now, I didn't come up with this idea that I'm going to share with you next. I think other people had made the connections between the layout of the temple here. And what I'm going to tell you is, I'm going to repeat that because I believe it's actually true. What you're seeing here is the new man, cleansed from sin and with God. Essentially, this is a diagram of the path of man. We start out born in sin, born unclean, from the outside in copper and bronze. And Jachin and Boaz represent the two eyes. You're literally looking at the head here, a human head. And then we're given new digits, 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 of each on each side. Right? This is the new man through Jesus Christ, through his sacrifice. Because these sacrifices were all pointing back forward. They were actually pointing forward to Jesus, weren't they? Sacrifice of sin. Jesus became the final sacrificial lamb on the Passover, right? See how this fits together? Remember, the 12 tribes of Israel were laid out around this tabernacle, around the temple. Not the tabernacle, but, well, the tabernacle, yes. But remember, the tabernacle is a reflection of the temple, as I just showed you. They were laid out in the shape of a cross. This was thousands of years before Jesus would be hung on a cross, right? So they were all pointing forward to Jesus Christ. Remember, when the Exodus happened, they had to, the very last plague in Egypt was they had to sacrifice a lamb and put the blood on the post and lintel in order to be passed over. That was the first Passover, you guys. Passover lamb. That was the very first one, and it was all pointing forward to Jesus. All of this stuff came after, didn't it? The temple, the tabernacle, all came after that event. So it was all pointing forward to Jesus. Let's keep listening. We're almost done here. That's when we got our first clue. This seems to reconfirm everything we're saying today. That happened a couple years ago when I was in France. And Mark and I were looking at Le Mont Saint-Michel, which is a castle city in the middle of an estuary. And at high tide, it becomes an island. At low tide, you can walk out to it and drive out to it. And we were looking at that and reading the story and looking at the fabrics on the walls of this sanctuary and how it was this bright blue. And they had, the motif seemed to be these oysters and mollusks, which are blue-blooded hemocyanin-based creatures. And we began to realize that inside of these oysters are pearls. And then it hit. The pearl is the clean. How can a pearl be clean, Casey? Well, the pearls make up the gates of the New Jerusalem, of the new heaven, and which means they have to be clean. God would not put pearls or an unclean thing on the gates, on the 12 gates of his new kingdom. So they have to be clean, right? So the pearl sitting in the oyster is a metaphor for the clean pineal, full of light, inside the unclean beast, which is your body. And Christ said, if your eye is single, your whole body will be full of light. But if you are dark, your whole body will be full of darkness. Are you seeing the metaphor now? Imagine an oyster's shell opening and closing, and inside sits the pearl. You have an unclean shellfish and inside a clean item. That is a direct analogy to us. And look, here it is reflected also in God's temple. The clean inside the unclean. And redemption. Now we begin to see what Christ really meant about a fine pearl and how valuable it is. Now that rabbit hole goes way deeper. There's other things we talked about with regards to the pearl, and we can get into that on other shows. But so that was from 4 years ago, and so I wanted to show that to you. This was right during the lockdown, I think, is when I did that show. Now let me go into the chat, then I'll show you guys this trailer for tomorrow's show. Wow, right? Blown away. I'm just trying to hold on here. All right. I know it seems like I've got it together all the time. I'm trying to hold on. The information is coming so fast that I'm trying to do it justice. I feel like I fail every day at presenting this stuff, but I do the best that I can so that you can understand what is going on. Now, yeah, that was 2020. Crazy, right? Almost 5 years ago. All right, let's show you this trailer. I keep thinking they're going to pull down my channel at some point. Here we go. Are you ready? Literally, this is Trump's mother's 33rd birthday. May 10th, 1945.
Niflheim Station, do you read me? Niflheim, do you copy?
This is Niflheim. That you, Mark?
Do you have any idea what it's like to find an 8-million-year-old viable sample of streptomyces frozen in the permafrost? Antarctica is the new frontier for medical research.
Who are you? Why are you doing this?
I can't even believe this. Jake Busey, born a day after Trump. He plays the character of Trump in the movie.
You already hold the dubious distinction of losing more personnel than any other station chief in the history of this project. You infected your entire team with influenza just to see how quickly the virus would spread in a closed environment.
What are you talking about? You very well know that that experiment led to the discovery of a vaccine that saved thousands of people.
Blown away. Blown away. I'll put links to today's show, you guys. The only way this information gets out is if you share it. YouTube will not recommend this video to you. What are your thoughts? That's only a part of the trailer. I didn't want to show you the whole thing because I want to give this show justice. Yes, that's Busey's son, who was a famous actor. They literally say New World Order in the movie. There's a hollow earth, which points to like Greenland, even though it all takes place in Antarctica. It's all happening, you guys. It's all happening. Do you guys want to see the rest of the trailer? I hate to leave you with a cliffhanger. I just want to make sure you guys come back tomorrow for the full show. That's all. Wow. They literally spelled it out for you. Literally. So. Okay. The movie's called, I put it in the beginning, I showed it at the beginning. It's called, I don't want to say it too many times, but it's Yahtzees at the Center of the Earth is the name of the movie. Came out in 2012 when Trump was 66 years old. And it's set in 1945 when Trump's mother was 33 years old. You guys want me to play the rest of the trailer? Because there's even more. Okay, you guys said yes. Okay, all right, we'll play it here. It's unbelievable. I can't even talk.
Look.
Why is it blue?
Centuries, people have been talking about worlds within the hollow earth. My God, it's true. During the Second World War, this part of Antarctica was occupied by Germany. Hitler actually sent expeditions down here looking for the supposed entrance to Agartha at the South Pole.
What is this?
first time, I met Dr. Joseph Mengele.
Mengele?
You have no idea what is possible once science is liberated from emotion, ethics. But I survived from debilitating arthritis and chronic osteoporosis, which in turn stopped my decaying health by replacing almost 60% of my endoskeleton. The Americans and Russians rushed to detain our scientists. When the war ended, and doctors, and used them for their own purpose. The rise, the coming of the 1,000-year Reich.
The Golden Age. Wow.
Mark! Oh my God, are you okay?
That's not Mark.
Everything I have learned, you will find in these files. Everything necessary to prolong and improve the Aryan race is the result of my decades of research in genetics and organ transplantation. Can be found in here.
Nothing is certain in science, but the regenerative properties of fetal stem cells have been well documented.
Zu dir. Wir danken ihm, dass wir angesichts der
We are about to start a new world order where only the strong will survive.
Flesh-eating bacteria. That's what Ryside was doing. They're putting it in the bombs.
They're going to infect the planet.
Wow. Just wow. And I'll explain all that tomorrow. I'll give you the whole plot of the film. Yeah, mind blown, right? Mind blown. So the movie has everything. Exactly, Shazane. It's got all of it. So unfortunately, we're now in an age of artificial intelligence where people think things are fake. They see information that doesn't align with their worldview. And now the waters have already been muddied. Nobody knows what's real anymore. Someone would probably accuse us of making that whole thing up. Like we made the film or something, or it's not real, or that film didn't really exist. They made that. It's fake news. They made it just to smear Trump. It's not real. This is what you hear from people. They're completely asleep. Where's a movie located? It's everywhere. You can just do a search, find the movie and watch it. It's a real movie. There's a Wikipedia page on it. Here it is right here. Nazis at the Center of the Earth, 2012. Trump was 66 years old. Set in on his mother's birthday when she was 33 years old. The cognitive dissonance makes people try to find a reason why this movie was made. Like they won't come to terms with it. They cannot believe it. Now we'll get into the transhumanism aspects because that's now, I believe we've finally solved what Elon Musk is working on. He's working on a brain interface that can translate absolute reality from the brain. Does this make sense? So right now, the experiments are to try to help paraplegics walk, right? And move cursors and things. But the true end game of the Neuralink is so that they can basically take a brain, just like in this movie, take a brain, which can probably live forever as long as you take care of it, right? They'll probably have some special sauce they put it in. And once they link into the brain and they can make that live hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, the Neuralink will then operate a robot body. That's the end goal, is for a brain to operate a robot body. Just like in the movie, you just saw they reanimated, Hitler, and all that was left of him was his head. That's the goal. That's the goal. And they'll offer this as everlasting life. Transhumanism. And it's all happening under Trump. Many of you also heard the Niflheim. Where did we hear that? We just decoded another movie called Mickey 17. They mentioned the same place. It was on the flat earth map. Remember I showed you? It's a place near the Arctic Ring on the flat earth map. So now you might, you're probably shocked to see what I just showed you, but it shouldn't be too shocking for the people that come to this channel every day, because there was a path that we've been on since the beginning of this channel. There were no wasted decodes. There were no wasted time. If you showed up every day, you see how this fits into the puzzle of everything we've already been talking about. Now, I'm not trying to elevate myself as some kind of deity or something. What I'm trying to explain to you is there is such a thing as being in the spirit and listening to God's direction in your life. And when you look back, you realize that everything that he told you to do, that you listened, fits into the bigger puzzle and can reveal ultimate truths that very few people arrive at. Again, all the glory goes to the Most High. He's the one at the wheel. I'm just trying to hang on, you guys, and I've dedicated my entire life to this because I know that there are people out there that need to see this information, and we are God's foot soldiers. We're his link to truth. And if we simply sit still and listen to the still small voice and do as he says and dedicate our life to listening to his instruction, despite the shame, despite the huge slice of humble pie we have to eat every single day, letting go of ego, God will reveal truth that will work to the benefit of his kingdom, to try to wake people up so that they can give their life to Jesus Christ and realize that this world order that Trump is creating has nothing to do with anything good. That's what this is about. We're supposed to say the Lord's Prayer and pray for his kingdom to come, rather than give our energy and time and devotion to this current kingdom. If that makes sense. I hope I worded that correctly. Here's the other thing. Another reason why I can take absolutely no credit for what you just saw is that all of you are the ones that have sent me different things over the years. You're all part of the body of Christ. You are pieces to the puzzle. There are many things that I never did find that I got from you guys. And here's the miracle of all of it. Out of the thousands, tens of thousands of emails I've gotten over the years, the Spirit directs me to pick the ones that are relevant. There's no way a person could do that on their own. It's a feeling you get, right? And you go with the feeling and you pick out the ones that God tells you to look at. This is why I say, don't ever take it personal. If I don't listen to look at your email and use what you send me, because I'm trying to allow God to direct where I'm supposed to look, right? So that's what that's about. Now, some people get really mad at me, or they'll call me a shill or something if I don't look at their email. And I'm like, you don't get it. I'm doing what God tells me to do. Don't ever take it personal. Keep sending me things and hope that that's part of God's plan for me to open your email, right? That's how it's supposed to work. We're not supposed to take things personally. So that's pretty crazy. All right. I'm back in the chat. Now, apparently YouTube just always doing weird stuff, right? They've got this bizarre new feature called Community Leaderboard. I just clicked on it and it shows like, what is this? The top people. I don't even know what XPs are. So weird. They're always doing weird stuff, aren't they? So I don't know. I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing to have that. It's dumb. It's like putting people in competition with each other. But there's nothing I can do about it. If I can try to disable it, maybe. Let's see, community. It's not going to let us do that. I can try to work on that though. Maybe try to disable that. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we pop off of here? Thanks everybody for showing up. Thanks for sharing the video. Yes, your container can be filled with good or evil. Your eye can be either full of light or darkness, said Jesus. It's either full of the Holy Spirit or it's demon possessed. Pretty much. Those are the two options. So, all right. Okay, guys, I guess we're going to get off here. Tomorrow's going to be a banger, isn't it? I'll see y'all tomorrow. Much love.